to another episode of Real Talks with Dr. Gaim with my co-host, Evelyn, aka H. So yeah, man, we're gonna get straight into it again with a few questions. So, first question is, what are your views on women being able to abort their child without the consent of the father? So I'm gonna go to H first.
Again, I think I'm kind of always curious about what you think I'm going to think. What do you think I'm going to say?
I don't know. I don't know if you're pro-abortion or whatever first. So
okay,
let's get out of the way and then.
Okay, I'm not pro-abortion obviously because I'm Christian. However, if I take myself out of that, this is a tough one, you know. Because I don't want anyone to. This is problematic. But if I take myself out of the Christian eye or the Christian standpoint, I can understand why people do abortions. I really do. My viewpoint on the father, however, is like if you're not the one pushing the child, I don't know what it's got nothing to do with you in terms of if I decide to keep the child or if I decide not to keep the child. I guess it's got a lot to do with you if I decide to keep it. Mm-hmm. But if I've decided not to keep the child, it's got absolutely nothing to do with you. You can't be that mad at me. And even if it's in the eyes of God, yeah, it wasn't your fault. I decided I'm going to keep the child. You're not going to hold this child for 9 months, so you're not going to be the one that pushes out this child and you want to have a say. I'm sorry.
You see, obviously we're not female. Mm-hmm. And obviously you're going to have emotions attached to your decision. But let's get one thing first.
Okay.
One thing straight first. Firstly, I don't agree with abortion, as Evelyn has just alluded to, me being a Christian as well. But I have compassion and I understand certain cases, i.e. rape. So if someone has been raped and then conceived, I understand why they would want to get an abortion.
Yeah. It also depends sometimes for me about what stage. Not that it's actually very pathetic, and it is. I'm sure somebody would look at it like it doesn't matter, but I think in my mind it kind of does. Like I don't see the difference in somebody, let's say, aborting a baby. This is so. I can't believe these are mad statements that you're putting on the net. You know, people will come for your neck. But
so be careful.
Yeah, for real. But what I'm gonna say is I don't necessarily see the difference in, let's say, the morning after pill in somebody who aborts a child after 2 weeks or 3. Does that make sense? I don't see a difference. Somebody will say that I think they're exactly the same as abortion. Now, I understand for me abortion begins when it's
life.
And not saying, but regardless, I get the concept of it is, but in my head, and I'm sure it's just something in my head, abortion begins when life, but somebody says there's life from the moment that they join, and I hear that, but I just don't see it the same, because somebody else will be very fine with taking the morning after pill, but will be worried to do a little bit stronger and kill a 2-week-old baby.
But there is no child when the morning after pill is taken.
But there could have been a child. You've completely, it's the same.
The difference is they could have been, which means prevention is better than cure. So I've prevented it by taking the pill. But once the child is in me, or you, should I say?
Yeah, I prevented it.
And you take you do an abortion. It's 2 different cases. Even though I understand what you're trying to. I think I'm going to disagree with you 110%.
I say, as much as it is, don't get me wrong. Yes,
there's no life though.
They may not have been alive, but they may have been alive. If that makes sense. So I get what you're saying about the prevention is better than cure, but on that ideology, if we're talking about one is bad because you're aborting a child, you are still in aspect or in theory still aborting a child. Even if there wasn't a child there, the idea is that if there is a child, I'm trying to kill you. That's it. Even by taking the morning after pill. If we are going on the ideology that actually it's just about prevention is better than cure, and I don't want to abort a baby, then you should just leave it and let it be. I'm not sure if I'm making sense.
No, I understand what you're saying, but I just disagree. But
yeah,
obviously, like I said before, prevention is better than cure. So in order for us to avoid getting to the stage of having an abortion per se, if one takes the morning after pill, it kind of wipes that off completely. But it's fine.
Yeah.
I believe that topic could go on
we actually heard of this one
for a long time.
In terms of the fathers, so read the question out again, because I feel like normally it's the question is asked in the opposite way around, if you know what I mean. Read what's the question.
So what are your views on women being allowed to abort a child or baby without the consent of the father?
Yeah, and the reason why I feel like this is a deep question is because normally they'll ask what are the views of a woman being able to keep the child without the father's consent, but this one is about like a man being upset at the fact that you now want to abort a baby. But my thing is, hey, honey, like the only reason or the only time I say that the man can have a say is if he's got a limited sort of sperm count. I think that's the only time a man can have a say. Otherwise, you shouldn't have a say.
Okay, so
because you can have another child, and it depends as well if you're in a relationship. I think there's a lot of factors, variables in it. If we're in a relationship, you are my wife, and I'm trying to have a child, and you then want to abort a child, that's out of order.
Okay.
Because that's my only option.
Mm-hmm.
But if it literally is the fact that I've slept with you, I want a kid really badly, I've slept with you, and you don't want the kid, like you're just some next girl I've slept with, and now I'm like, no, you can't abort the baby. That's a bit mad. Even if it's my girlfriend. If it's my wife, it's different. If it's my girlfriend and she doesn't want the baby, babes, you're not the one that has to carry it for 9 months.
Okay. When it comes to rights in the UK, in terms of what the father, if the father has any rights, it's non-existent in the UK.
Is it?
It's non-existent. I've done my research. There's zero.
They have zero rights.
They have zero rights. They have no say. If the girl wants to have an abortion without the father's consent,
that's it.
It can happen. In China, they recently brought out, well, it's not recently, in 2002, if a woman wants to have an abortion, it has to be a joint decision.
That's mad.
And I kind of understand that because I think it's like the woman has the power to make someone who doesn't want to be a father, and someone who wants to be a father not a father. Which I think is mad.
That's how.
So a woman can legally deprive a man of his right to become a parent or force him to become one against his will. And I think it's so mad.
That can happen.
Okay, cool. Let's strip it all the way down.
Mm-hmm.
Once you have sex with a woman without a condom, you run the risk. No, you're not even a risk.
Yeah.
There's a 50-50 chance that she could conceive. Mm-hmm. So, cool. I understand that part. But then once it comes to, okay, now she's actually pregnant, I feel it should be a joint decision. I don't care.
Should I tell you why it can't be? It can't be.
I get it, it's her body.
Yeah, so
I get that.
I think.
But then what then happens is you force a man to be a father when he doesn't want to be.
Okay, let me ask this question.
But he's an idiot because he should have strapped up.
All right, let me ask you this question. Yeah, when we go into business, if we go into business, even managers get paid more than, I don't know, the person who's in the bottom barrel. Why? Yeah. Because they have different responsibilities, different roles and responsibilities. Now, I understand what you're saying, but technically, that would be like if we've both gone for this same job. I feel like how I see it as is we've both gone for this same job, which is sex. Now, at that point where you agree to go for this same job, once you get inside there, the roles and responsibilities they split. And listen, the woman's doing so much more of work, so she should have like 95% of the rights because she's doing 95%, 99.9%. Of the work. So of course the rights do get split and she gets them at that point. However, at that point when you both decide to have sexual intercourse, I feel like as a man, if you're so worried about the rights, you should realize when you're going in that you are giving yourself or giving life in somebody else's hands. That's what it is. Okay. And the woman should have that responsibility because she does actually have to carry that responsibility. So it should be her say. The man should have no say unless. Now imagine if you've got a limited sperm count,
like,
and it'll be different.
That no say is mad because we made a joint decision to have sex. But I get that. But what I'm saying is, like, I use my cousin as an example. Mm-hmm. His son is 10 now. Mm-hmm. Yeah, his baby mums, they broke up. He told her to have an abortion, mm-hmm. and then my tutor mm-hmm. was his secondary school teacher, mm-hmm. who then came to my house and was like, "Oh, bro, I've seen the work that your cousin has done," and we was baffled. Like, what are you talking about? That's how we found out that the girl was pregnant. She was like 6 months. Then I called him up like, "Yo, bro," and he was like, "Bro, I swear down, I thought she got rid of it."
That's mad. That is mad.
She didn't get rid of it.
Mm-hmm.
At first, he was showing resent towards his child and her because of what she did. And I think, now that I deep it, what she did was deep.
Yeah. I agree.
But at the same time, I told him that, okay, cool, now you're a father. You have to man up. These are your responsibilities. You mm-hmm. need to pattern up. Whatever hate and order that you have towards her, don't take that out on your son. And obviously the rest is history. His son is 10, blah, blah, blah. But in that situation,
Do you know what? I think, as you're saying that, I do think there needs to be, and this is a mad statement again, but I do think there needs to be a revision of laws, only because, or for them to switch them around, only because I do think that's completely out of order. I'm not gonna lie, that in that aspect is wrong. I feel like a man should not have a say about keeping a child, but he should, in terms of like, I don't think it's the same.
A woman can choose both.
No, that's what I'm saying. I think that's wrong. I think that actually,
both or one.
For both.
Okay.
I think that's wrong for both. So in terms of, if there's a woman here that wants to keep a child and the man doesn't, that is not fair. I don't think that's fair. Yes, you have to carry the child, but at that same point, like, I'm not ready to have a child, so you should not put that responsibility on me. Yes, we both went inside together, but did we agree to have this child? This is life. Like, so
but
I guess
you're contradicting yourself.
I'm not contradicting myself.
You just said once you go into her, you
I'm talking about. That's what I'm saying. Okay, let me make this clear. I think that in terms of keeping the child, in terms of a woman who decides to keep a child, that should be within the consent of a man. But in terms of a woman who does not want to keep a child and a man's trying to tell her, you've got to keep the child, go away. No way. Absolutely not. But I feel like when we're talking about bringing up life, I feel like the rule should be very different when another person is involved. You cannot bring another person involved and keep it. I feel like it should be 50-50 if there's a child involved. Does that make sense? Does that make sense?
I understand what you're saying.
I'm not sure if you get what I'm saying.
No, I get what you're saying.
I don't think I've articulated it well, but I just think
that it's mad deep to think that a woman has so much power when, I get it, it's her body.
Yeah,
I get it. But without me, there's nothing. You don't have no baby.
Yeah.
And I understand that, fair enough, she should be able to make all the decisions. But to completely exclude the man, I think it's out of order. Even to the point where I found out, was it last week, that if the man wants to find out the sex of his child, the doctor has to ask the woman, is it okay for the dad to know?
That's
their own dad.
That's not fair, yeah. I think there's loads of...
But if the woman doesn't want to know, and the dad wants to know, he can't know.
That's not fair. Are you sure?
Abigail did a wedding.
That's mad.
She did a baby, what's the thing? Gender reveal something the other day. And I was like, yo, that is mad. So basically, if Abigail wants to find out whatever child she's having, when she has a child, because she's not having a child. now, fam, and I
That's
don't want
mad.
to... Yeah, fam, it's mad.
Yeah, do you know what? Listen, let me make things clear. I don't agree completely with the rules in the whole child thing and that whole abortion, who has the rights and stuff like that. What I do agree with wholeheartedly is you, man, have no say in whether or not... You can't tell me to keep a child that I don't want as a man. But at the same time, I don't agree with that perception at all, by the way. We should all keep every child. However... But
then, on the flip side, if you want to keep it and I don't want to keep it, then what?
I feel like that's not fair as well. Okay. I feel like that's not fair.
As long as we're on the same page.
Do you get what I'm saying? On that page, I think that is very, very much not fair if I don't want to keep it. And it also depends about circumstance, because you've got some crazy men that are out here like abusing women and they are like sleeping with you. You've been together with him. You've been with him for like 3 years. He constantly... I know you've been with him for some time. You might have aborted like 2 before. You know, like you're not ready to go through that mentally. And at that point, so it really is circumstantial, because at that point I could understand a girl being like, dead that. No, I'm keeping this child. This child is for me. I'm going to keep this child. But if it's at the point where it's like we're just fooling around, I just met you from somewhere, and then I have a child, and then I want a child because I want a child. I'm gonna now allow my child to be deprived from a dad because of that reason. I think that is out of order.
Okay, circumstance. So 2 months or whatever. I understand those circumstances, but I'm saying boyfriend and girlfriend, husband and wife, where there is a relationship. I think personally it should be a joint decision.
Yes.
But the UK disagrees.
Yeah.
America has its own abortion. I don't even want to get into what the
laws are there. You're right about that.
It should be
a joint decision
because you didn't make the child by yourself. I get that it's your body, but without me, there is no baby, or without any man, there is no baby. So why would you deny the man his rights to make a decision which is going to affect his life? I think women who make that decision on both ends are selfish.
Sometimes. It depends, because I think we have to also realise that certain things are circumstantial as well. So it's a broad statement, because there literally could be somebody watching that needed to have this child because of their circumstances. It's upsetting, but you know what? I think you're right in what you said in the statement that actually, if you're going to bring a child into this world, it has to be 50-50. It has to be 50-50, a joint decision. End of. Because there's certain mad things that they make.
So we're going to agree
on that one, yeah.
So it should be a 50-50 decision, not the woman making the rights or making the decisions.
Making the decisions, yeah.
Solely because it's her body.
No, that's out of order.
Okay. That's one thing we have agreed on. Second question is, what are your views on people who openly say they dislike their own race?
I personally feel like it depends on why, on what is your reasoning.
Okay, so let's take into surroundings.
No, I mean, like, what is it that you don't like?
What I'm saying is surroundings. So let's say you live, let's say certain surroundings. If you happen to live in an area where it's predominantly white, you're more likely to gravitate towards what you are around, which is fine. So let's say a black person who lives in, this might sound mad, but let's just say Blackburn. I don't know if there's a lot of white people or black people there, but I'm just going to say it because it sounds like... Okay, cool. So I'm making an assumption, but...
Let's say Portsmouth. There's not a lot of black people.
Okay, cool. Let's say Portsmouth. If you grow up in Portsmouth and you are black Nigerian, black Ghanaian, the likelihood of you finding another black person is limited. So your preference would be the white person because that's all you know.
Yeah.
Which is, there's nothing wrong with that. The problem then becomes when you openly talk negatively about your own race. I hate black people. When you look in the mirror, what do you see?
What do you see? That's you.
You look in you look at your mum, your dad. That I don't personally agree with. But 100%. I think there are many factors as to why people say things like that. And for instance, self-love. Self-love is key. Like if you hate yourself, so every time you look in the mirror and you are disgusted by what you see, it's a black person. So you would look for something which doesn't look like you. So a person who's white, Asian, Mexican, whatever, to kind of avoid
to avoid what it is that you're thinking. I agree.
Precisely. Also, if you have identity issues, man, like you are struggling to fit in a certain surrounding, you're just gonna gravitate towards what you know.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, I'm from a black predominant area. I couldn't personally see myself with anything other than a black person. It doesn't mean that I dislike white people or Mexicans or whatever. It's just my preference.
Your comfort, and it's a comfort. I think is.
But I also understand why people stick to their own race, which is a complete different topic. But I just want to stick to. I want to use a reference from Dr. Umar. He was on a Breakfast Club and he was talking about how black people are the only people who willingly accept other races in terms of dating. So black people will go out with a white person, a Mexican, an Asian, whereas those people are not so willing to do the same for us. And obviously he's talking about slavery and all of those things. And if you think of it, it's kind of true, like to some extent. To some extent.
So I guess it's on the sort of generic statement, not necessarily, because obviously white people do,
of course.
But more so black people are more willing
to do so,
to date outside as opposed to maybe the Asian culture or the white culture.
I think, for some Asians, if they date outside of their race and then their parents find out, they get disowned. I want to use, I grew up in Peckham. There's a lady called Mandy who was my mum's friend. That's my mum's boy. She was white. She said to me, she's not racist. She's not a racist because
she just wasn't racist.
She was just, But she always said growing up, that she would prefer if her children were to marry a white person.
Yeah.
And obviously as a child, I never really understood what she was talking about. Just like, are we talking about whatever? But as I've gotten older, I understand what she means in terms of
going to add one more
It's
point.
easier for, well, culture-wise, it's easier, I understand. But she also understood that her surroundings, growing up in Peckham, it's predominantly a black area. So if a child doesn't get with a white person, it was something that she was coming to terms with. Her oldest daughter is with a white person. Her second daughter is with a black person.
Just because that's the environment. Yeah.
But her second daughter she's Mandem, so it was bound to happen. But like I was saying before, surroundings definitely plays a big part. But, yeah.
I was going to say, do you know what? I think I agree, but it depends on what your reasoning is. And I think that anybody can actually be with anybody if they want to, and if their reasoning is logical. Like you said, it just becomes a problem when you've got a negative and you associate all people with a negative characteristic. If it's about if you're gonna
base it's stupid, like, oh, black people are loud. Or
yes, exactly.
Black girls are dears or whatever. Then
and black
I'm not
girls,
interested.
yeah, like I think that's actually really, really stupid. Any characteristic as to why you decide not to be with someone is dumb, because nobody or no gender technically has a characteristic of that. So if there's things that you don't like about people, it's in every race. So it gets on my nerves when black boys are like, oh, black girls are too ratchet, black girls are too this, dark skinned girls even are too And I'll go back to, there was a backchat episode that they was talking about, and I remember they was talking about light skinned girls versus dark skinned girls, and one of the main things were something like black girls are so ratchet and they're so loud.
Thank you very much for watching today's episode of Real Talks with Dr. Gaim. For more content, make sure you like, subscribe and comment. Peace.